Hi, today our group will be discussing a critical issue that affects both human and ecological systems, water scarcity, with a particular focus on Middle and South America. Let's begin by understanding what water scarcity really means. There are two main types, physical and economic. Physical water scarcity happens when there simply isn't enough water in a region, often due to natural causes like drought, low rainfall, or changing weather patterns. This means that more water is being consumed than nature can replenish. On the other hand, economic water scarcity is when there actually is enough water in the environment, but people can't access it. This is because of poor infrastructure, weak water management, or unequal distribution. So, even with natural availability, a lack of investment in water systems prevents communities from meeting their basic water needs. So, why is water so important? Well, water isn't just essential for drinking, it's vital for food production, sanitation, energy, and sustaining ecosystems. According to the Nature Conservancy, fresh water scarcity is driving massive biodiversity loss. This reinforces the idea that water is foundational to both ecological health and human society. Without it, communities will collapse and so will ecosystems. Now let's look at why this matters so much in Middle and South America. Water scarcity in this region is a growing concern. It limits access to clean drinking water and basic hygiene while also threatening agriculture and economic development. According to UNICEF, without sufficient water, public health systems become overwhelmed and diseases like cholera can spread more easily. Reports state that Latin America has experienced 74 droughts in the last 2 decades, resulting in over $13 billion in damages. This shows just how much of an issue this affects both people and national economies. Another critical point is the gender and youth impact. In many communities, women and children are responsible for collecting water. So, as water becomes scarcer, they must walk longer distances, which takes time away from education and increasing the risk of physical harm. On the map, you can see key countries most affected by water scarcity, marked with stars. These include Peru, Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and Uruguay. These regions face both physical and economic water scarcity, often simultaneously.
Latin America is increasingly facing water scarcity, but the severity varies by country. Chile is one of the most impacted, especially in the north, where prolonged droughts and glacier retreat are threatening both water supply and hydropower generation. In Argentina, persistent droughts in southern regions have devastated crops, putting agriculture at risk. Mexico's northern states, such as Nuevo León, have had to implement water rationing in urban areas due to extreme shortages. Brazil, particularly its central and southern areas, have seen erratic rainfall patterns that threaten both agriculture and the country's heavy reliance on hydroelectric power. Peru also faces a long-term threat as melting glaciers continue to reduce water availability for agricultural and mining. These water challenges aren't just environmental and are also economic. Key industries like energy, agriculture, and manufacturing are especially vulnerable. This data and global reports show operational challenges caused by water scarcity in Latin America, and addressing these challenges requires proactive water management strategies and investments to ensure sustainable operations across all sectors.
Causes of water scarcity. Three main of the causes is the first one is the natural cause. El Niño is a climate phenomenon that happened with the ocean water in the Pacific Ocean heat up more than the usual, disrupting water patterns. Some impacts are to reduce the rainfall, drying up rivers, and affect the water supplies in cities and for the agriculture. Of the human impacts, over extraction of the groundwater. In many Latin America countries, groundwater is being extracted faster than it can replace. Impacts are to reduce the rainfall, drying up rivers, and affect deforestation in the Amazon reduce amount of water and evaporates return to the rainfall, impact local water availability. The use of pesticides and fertilizers in agriculture, along with the mining waste, pollutes rivers and water sources, reduce their quality. Some of the urbanization and infrastructure issues, as the people like Lima, Peru, and Mexico City are growing fast, but their system is old. An example is in some areas like Lima, many neighborhoods lack access to relieve running water due out outage infrastructure. In the past, European controlled the water. That is still affects people today. Indigenous people had a good ways to use water, but the government doesn't to listen to them. Farmers use too much water for crops. Means use water to make rivers dirty. Some crops like avocados and soybeans need too much water. Why? Because the countries want money. They want to sell more crops and build big cities, but this make less water for people.
As we examine the consequences of water scarcity in Middle South America, Lake Titicaca stands out as a powerful example. This lake is now facing dire environmental crises as its shores are littered with trash and the water contains toxic levels of lead and mercury. As we examine the consequences of water scarcity in Middle South America, posing serious health risks to the 1.3 million people living nearby. Environmentally, this crisis has led to the depletion of rivers and lakes and the loss of aquatic biodiversity with the near extinction of species such as their water frog. Socially, contaminated water is causing severe illness and conflicts over water rights, disproportionately affecting women and indigenous communities. Economically, local agriculture and tourism are suffering. Families are spending more on bottled water and healthcare, and food security is under threat. This area is impacted of impact is often overlooked and is a big contributor of lack of awareness and showcases how local communities are very often not taken into account. Despite promises by governments to invest in treatment plants and cleanup efforts, little change has been made. This diagram is adapted and is a study focused on water governance. It's a powerful tool for understanding the complex stakeholder dynamics that also apply to other regions such as ours. At the center is community participation, which is essential but often limited by the outer layers you see here. Governance structures, user community factors, and environmental pressures. These include things like climate change, social inequalities, political systems, and resource ownership, all of which affect who gets a voice in water decisions. In Latin America, this is highly relevant, as rural and indigenous communities in places like Bolivia and Brazil are frequently left out of formal decision making. Governments and private industries often hold more power, while international organizations try to help, but often miss local dynamics. This big issue is lack of simply asking and making efforts to support local communities. In many cases, the aid is invested into projects that are often unsuccessful. As the diagram shows, competition over resources, social distrust, and power imbalances all limit how effective community-based water management can be. So, it helps us understand why tackling water scarcity here means addressing deep-rooted structural and social barriers and not just physical shortages.
Now for our proposed solution. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, a subsidiary of the United Nations, an effective method for solving the water scarcity problem in Middle and South America is Integrated Water Resource Management, or IWRM. IWRM replaces traditional approaches to water management. It uses holistic policies that acknowledge that water sources are an integral part of our ecosystems and economies. Through this concept, we can implement long-term strategies such as reforestation and rainwater harvesting systems, and also short-term strategies like the direct regulation of agricultural and industrial water use. Restoring Middle and South America's major forests, such as the Amazon rainforest, Selva Maya, and Gran Chaco, can help promote water infiltration and enhance rainfall through the water cycle. The International Union of Forest Research Organizations, or the IUFRO, explained that specifically in Latin America, forests and trees can help to keep erosion at low erosion rates and to improve the soil's infiltration capacity. Another strategy of IWRM are rainwater harvesting systems. According to a 2015 study in urban Colombia, installing RWH systems throughout the municipality of Benito Juárez, including all public, residential, and commercial buildings, can dramatically reduce the water stress faced by neighborhoods across the grid. An important short-term strategy of IWRM is the regulation of agricultural and industrial water use. Simply paying mind to how much water is consumed can significantly reduce water scarcity. This in itself is not enough to solve this problem. Communities and governments also need to acknowledge that water is a finite resource and it has economic value. There are many benefits and drawbacks to IWRM. IWRM can lead to household, economic, agricultural, and environmental benefits. It can result in social equality and environmental sustainability. Although its drawbacks include lack of data, costly startup, and insufficient funding, and it requires community participation. With its current fragmented action, this can make it difficult to implement IWRM. IWRM builds on indigenous knowledge. According to a BBC report, in Peru, communities are using indigenous techniques such as the Wari technique that uses water canals to divert wet season flows from mountain streams and route them to natural infiltration basins. They also note that this is one of the world's first efforts to integrate nature into water management on a national scale. To implement this solution, according to the IWRM Action Hub, water development and management should be based on a participatory approach. It can be implemented by local governments, NGOs, and indigenous councils, as well as international organizations like the United Nations.
So ultimately, water scarcity in Middle and South America is a growing problem, affecting people's quality of life, safety, and the overall development of the region. It's driven by human activities like deforestation and overuse of groundwater, along with natural causes like El Nino and erratic weather. But there are solutions such as better water resource management, reforestation, and rainwater harvest. This matters because it impacts not only the environment, but also agriculture, sustainability, and the well-being of both people and animals in the region. We as a community can advocate for rainwater harvesting, support access clean water and encourage mindful water use, especially by educating the youth and inspiring change for the future.